God was under no compulsion to create, but that does not signify that there was anything incidental or inconsequential about his act of creation. God is all that he does, and so his act of creating is not something separate from himself. In God's heart and in his love, each one of us has always existed. From all eternity God saw each one of us as an idea or thought in his divine mind, and for each one from all eternity he has a special and distinctive plan. We have always existed for him. Creation signifies that at a certain point in time we begin to exist also for ourselves, as the fruit of God's free will and free love. The world is not necessary, not self-sufficient, but contingent and dependent. As created beings we can never be just ourselves alone. God is the core of our being, or we cease to exist. At every moment we depend for our existence upon the loving will of God. Existence is always a gift from God, a free gift of his love, a gift that is never taken back, but a gift nonetheless, not something that we possess by our own power. God alone has the cause and source of his being in himself. All created things have their cause and source, not in themselves, but in him. God alone is self-sourced. All created things are God-sourced, God-rooted, finding their origin and fulfillment in him. God alone is noun. All created things are adjectives. In saying that God is creator of the world, we do not mean merely that he set things in motion by an initial act at the beginning, after which they go on functioning by themselves. God is not just a cosmic clockmaker, who winds up the machinery and then leaves it to keep ticking on its own. On the contrary, creation is continual. If we are to be accurate when speaking of creation, we should use not the past tense but the continuous present. We should say, not God made the world, and me in it, but God is making the world, and me in it, here and now, at this moment and always. Creation is not an event in the past, but a relationship in the present. If God did not continue to exert his creative will at every moment, the universe would immediately lapse into non-being. Nothing could exist for a single second if God did not will it to be. As Metropolitan Philaret of Moscow puts it, all creatures are balanced upon the creative word of God, as if upon a bridge of diamond. Above them is the abyss of divine infinitude, below them that of their own nothingness. For this is true even of Satan and the fallen angels in hell. They too depend for their existence on the will of God. The purpose of the creation doctrine, then, is not to ascribe a chronological starting point to the world, but to affirm that at this present moment, as at all moments, the world depends for its existence upon God. When Genesis states, "In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth," 1:1, the word beginning is not to be taken simply in a temporal sense, but as signifying that God is the constant cause and sustainer of all things. As creator, then, God is always at the heart of each thing, maintaining it in being. On the level of scientific inquiry, we discern certain processes or sequences of cause and effect. On the level of spiritual vision, which does not contradict science but looks beyond it, we discern everywhere the creative energies of God, upholding all that is, forming the innermost essence of all things. But, while present everywhere in the world, God is not to be identified with the world. As Christians we affirm not pantheism but panonism. God is in all things yet also beyond and above all things. He is both greater than the great and smaller than the small. In the words of St. Gregory Palamas, he is everywhere and nowhere. He is everything and nothing. 5. As a Cistercian monk of New Clairvaux has put it, God is at the core. God is other than the core. God is within the core, and all through the core, and beyond the core, closer to the core than the core. 6. And God saw everything that he had made, and, behold, it was exceedingly good. General 1:31. The creation in its entirety is God's handiwork. In their inner essence all created things are exceedingly good. Christian orthodoxy repudiates dualism in its various forms, the radical dualism of the Manichaeans, who attribute the existence of evil to a second power, co-eternal with the God of love, the less radical dualism of the Gnostic Valentinians, who see the material order, including the human body, as coming into existence in consequence of a pre-cosmic fall, and the more subtle dualism of the Platonists, who regard matter not as evil but as unreal. Against dualism in all its forms, Christianity affirms that there is a summum bonum, a supreme good, namely, God himself, but there is and can be no summum malum. Evil is not co-eternal with God. In the beginning there was only God. All the things that exist are his creation, whether in heaven or on earth, whether spiritual or physical, and so in their basic thusness they are all of them good. What, then, are we to say about evil? Since all created things are intrinsically good, sin or evil as such is not a thing, not an existent being or substance. I did not see sin, says Julian of Norwich in her Revelations, for I believe that it has no kind of substance, no share in being, nor can it be recognized except by the pain caused by it. 7. Sin is naught. 8. Says St. Augustine, that which is evil in the strict sense, observes Evagrius, is not a substance but the absence of good, just as darkness is nothing else than the absence of light. 9. And St. Gregory of Nyssa states, sin does not exist in nature apart from free will. It is not a substance in its own right. 10. Not even the demons are evil by nature, says Saint Maximus the Confessor, but they become such through the misuse of their natural powers. 11. Evil is always parasitic. It is the twisting and misappropriation of what is in itself good. Evil resides not in the thing itself but in our attitude towards the thing, that is to say, in our will. It might seem that, by terming evil nothing, we are underestimating its forcefulness and dynamism. But, as C.S. Lewis has remarked, nothing is very strong. 12. To say that evil is the perversion of good, and therefore in the final analysis an illusion and unreality, is not to deny its powerful hold over us, for there is no greater force within creation than the free will of beings endowed with self-consciousness and spiritual intellect, and so the misuse of this free will can have altogether terrifying consequences. The Orthodox Way, Kallistos Ware.